Market DNA models behavior as a bounded price-time system seeking predefined structural destinations. This archive tracks the evolution of copper cycle 4, documented as a structural progression prior to its completion. The cycle is anchored by 3 primary coordinate points that define the physical geometry of the Phase 1 state. Initialization coordinates map the primary entry M at 6.4005 and the secondary entry P at 6.2704. These coordinate points function as mandatory, deterministic inputs that permanently define the structural field and risk architecture for the entire lifecycle of the asset. Strict market DNA protocol requires risk to be mathematically engineered into the structure before any capital engagement occurs. The algorithm processes 3 specific variables: the hypothetical capital, the investor's maximum allowed drawdown limit, and the structural third triangle domain percentage. Adding the risk coefficient and the asset's contract size completes the formula. The calculation for copper cycle 4 dictates a total position size of exactly 7.41 units. Division protocol splits these units into individual trade sizes of 0.37, allocated equally across the M and PC coordinates. This deterministic calculation transforms raw market exposure into a strictly bounded structural space before the first price movement is recorded. Phase 2 marks the stage where initial structural development begins to interact with predefined future time boundaries. On June 12, 2026, the copper price engaged the lower structural limit of the cycle. The price touched the delayed mirror at the trapezoid lower boundary, recorded at exactly 6.4565. At this point of contact, the primary positions initiated at the original M and PC coordinates remain open. This interaction identifies the active limits of the restorative structural field as pressure builds toward activation. In Phase 3, temporal distortion typically resolves into accelerated directional movement within the activation window. The record advances to August 4, 2026. Price reached the primary apex target, the N price level, at 6.57. Reaching this coordinate triggers a mechanical rule. Exactly half of the open position is systematically released. This realized profit is appended to the cycle's safety buffer, charging the reserve to $1,458. The buffer charge results in a formal adjustment of the structural risk boundary to 5.4626. Achieving the N level allows for the mechanical de-risking of the position while maintaining structural exposure for the final phase. The record moves to Phase 4, the final state required to resolve this copper structure. Cycle realization occurred on August 5, 2026. The asset reached the T3 destination at the trapezoid upper boundary, logging a price of 6.708. Documentary perspective now expands to include Fractal 2, the recursively embedded structural layer. Upon completing Phase 4, the price concurrently touched the upper boundary of the Fractal 2 trapezoid. Reaching this dual boundary coordinate signifies the exhaustion of the structural imbalance that initiated the cycle. This structural comparison acts as a ledger, measuring predefined expectations against realized factual outputs. The deterministic expected return was 2.25%, compared to a realized return of 2.0%. While the maximum expected drawdown was capped at -5%, the cycle realized a drawdown of only -2.17%. The expected structural time window was 20 days. However, the actual duration extended to 61 days. This 41-day expansion illustrates a time-bending effect, where high structural pressure delays the interaction without breaking the underlying price geometry. The high accuracy of the final price targets, despite the temporal delay, indicates that the asset price remains governed by established structural boundaries. Market DNA Observation Series, documenting structural evolution before the market completes it.